One late night in Paris, Dr. Driss is behind the wheel driving his employer Philippe across the city. Sitting in traffic becomes too dull, so Driss starts speeding, weaving between vehicles and ignoring all road signs. The police spot him and give chase, and Driss wagers €10 that he can shake them off. However, after passing under a bridge, officers cut them off from both directions. Driss remains surprisingly calm and raises his bet to €200, claiming he can get them a police escort instead. The officers pull him out of the car, and Driss puts on a performance, acting deeply offended and insisting Philippe is seriously ill and needs to reach the hospital immediately. The police find the wheelchair in the trunk, and when they approach Philippe, he appears to be having convulsions, which is equally staged. Convinced it's a genuine emergency, the officers overlook the speeding violations and personally escort them toward the hospital. This unlikely friendship had begun many months earlier. Philippe and his assistant Magali are conducting interviews to find a new full-time caretaker, but the process isn't smoothing well, as all the candidates give either overly rehearsed or painfully awkward responses. Their routine is suddenly disrupted when Driss barges in out of turn, not because he wants the job, but simply because he needs a signed document confirming he was rejected so he can collect unemployment benefits. He's straightforward and slightly impolite, even flirting openly with Magali, but Philippe is entertained by him and asks him to return the following day to collect his papers. Driss heads home to his modest neighborhood apartment and attempts to take a bath while his younger siblings constantly interrupt him. His older sister, Mina, more mature and responsible than the rest, while waiting for their mother, he glances out the window and notices his brother Adama stepping out of a suspicious-looking car. When Adama comes inside, he claims he was at school, grabs his bag, and heads straight back out, which only deepens Driss's suspicions. That evening, their mother comes home, and Driss presents her with a Fabergé egg he stole, telling her he had been on vacation. She's far from pleased. He vanished for 6 months without a single phone call, and now he simply reappeared as if nothing happened. Fed up with his behavior and overwhelmed with the responsibility of her other children, she throws him out and tells him not to return. Driss spends the night smoking and snacking with friends from the neighborhood. The next day, he returns to Philippe's home to collect his paperwork and is greeted by the housekeeper Yvonne, who walks him through the entire property and explains Philippe's daily schedule. She also shows him the private bedroom he'd have, complete with his own bathroom. Driss lingers over the side of the bathtub before being brought to meet Philippe, who hands over the signed rejection letter but simultaneously offers him a trial position. Driss takes the job, and Philippe bets he won't survive 2 weeks. Once he's moved in, Driss is trained in all the responsibilities of caregiving: how to keep Philippe's legs from losing circulation, how to transfer him into his wheelchair, how to assist with showering and getting dressed. Things turn uncomfortable when Driss learns he must put compression stockings on Philippe and clean him after bathroom visits, but despite all his protests, he eventually accepts these tasks as part of the role. Later that evening, while relaxing on the rooftop, Driss is interrupted by Philippe's daughter Elisa and her boyfriend Bastien, who are looking for somewhere private. He sends them both away and refuses to share his beer. Driss gradually adjusts to life in the household, though he makes early mistakes, placing the phone in Philippe's hand instead of holding it to his ear, or leaving the baby monitor behind while bathing. He learns the mail system too. Most letters he opens on Philippe's behalf, but a separate set of personal correspondence remains off-limits. Outside of work, Driss keeps things lively. He persistently pursues Magali without success and occasionally arranges for escorts to visit him. One morning, Yvonne comes to wake him up and discovers several dangerous items inside his bag, though she keeps quiet about it for now. That day, Driss is tasked with driving Philippe around town, but refuses to transport him in a van like he's cargo, opting instead for one of the elegant cars that rarely gets used. Initially, Philippe objects and argues for practicality, but quickly warms to the idea of a more exciting ride, even as Yvonne voices her disapproval. As they prepare to leave, a neighbor's car is blocking the entrance despite a clearly visible no parking sign. Driss marches straight over, grabs the man by the collar, and doesn't let up until the car is moved. Philippe is quietly impressed. Yvonne is not. The two visit a museum where Philippe intends to purchase a piece of art that Driss considers a total waste of money. It's nothing but a red smear on canvas. Later, one of Philippe's relatives warns him that people are concerned about Driss, given his tendency toward aggression and a criminal background they've uncovered. Philippe brushes it off entirely. What he values about Driss is precisely that the man doesn't treat him with pity and has no trouble joking with him. After another unsuccessful attempt to charm Magali, Driss eats dinner with Yvonne in the kitchen, while they overhear Philippe dictating a letter to Magali. Yvonne switches off the baby monitor, calling it a private matter, and explains the situation. Philippe has been exchanging letters for some time with a woman named Eleonora, and those are the letters Driss isn't allowed to open. Their relationship exists entirely on paper. They've never actually met. Before heading to bed, Driss teases Yvonne about the gardener's obvious admiration for her. He's just settling in when strange sounds from the baby monitor catch his attention. Philippe is struggling to breathe. Unable to ignore it, he goes to his room and patiently helps him through the episode with calm words and a cool cloth. Philippe eventually drifts off, only to wake up shortly afterwards saying he needs fresh air. This time, Driss acts immediately. He bundles Philippe into his wheelchair, wraps him in blankets, and takes him out for a late-night ride along the river. It's been a long time since Philippe has seen the city at night, and the change of scenery relaxes him. He opens up to Driss, explaining that the medication only helps so much, and that phantom pain still haunts him. As they watch some women pass, Philippe also admits he can no longer be intimate with anyone, though certain sensitive spots, like behind his ears, still provide him some pleasure. When the phantom pain begins to return, Driss offers him a joint. Philippe is hesitant at first, but quickly comes to enjoy it. They round off the night at a restaurant, trading jokes over a shared meal, and Philippe gradually shares more of his past. He met his wife when they were both students, and not long after they married, she suffered 5 miscarriages before being diagnosed with a fatal illness. That's when they adopted Elisa. Philippe had always been drawn to speed and extreme challenges, and paragliding gave him that rush. A session in bad weather led to a crash that severed his vertebrae, though he says his real disability isn't the wheelchair, but living without his wife. After more laughter and conversation, Philippe realizes the date and announces that Driss has officially completed his trial month and is now permanently hired. His first task as a full employee, return the stolen Fabergé egg, which was part of a collection his wife gave him every year.
The next day, Driss goes to speak with Mina after school. She's hurt that he's only been in touch to ask about the egg and mentions that police have been calling their home. He then finds Adama, who admits he was caught with 30 grand on him. Driss offers to take him for lunch, but Adama refuses and climbs back into the same suspicious car. Later, Driss is allowed to sit in while Philippe dictates a letter to Eleanor. He finds the elaborate writing style tedious and thinks Philippe should be far more direct. He's also stunned to learn they've been writing for 6 months without ever swapping photos. When he spots her phone number on one of the letters, he takes it upon himself to call her, essentially forcing Philippe to actually speak with her for the first time. The conversation goes remarkably well, and Philippe soon finds himself on the phone with her constantly, even just before he and Driss attend the opera, during which Driss laughs openly at the elaborate costumes. The following day, Driss persuades Philippe to finally send Eleanor a photo and selects one that shows him in his wheelchair. Meanwhile, Elisa storms into Driss's room demanding cigarettes and mocking his attempts at painting. He throws her out, then goes to find Philippe, who is asking Yvonne to swap the chosen photo for one taken before his accident. Yvonne hides it inside the escort folder just as Driss enters, ranting about Elisa and insisting Philippe needs to be stricter with her, an opinion Yvonne shares. Philippe agrees to speak with Elisa, but is more intrigued by the accidental revelation that Driss has been painting. As time goes on, the bond between the two men deepens. Driss takes Philippe out to play in the snow, brings him along on his morning runs, and Philippe returns the favor by getting Driss his first proper suit and addressing Elisa's behavior while Driss listens via the baby monitor. When Driss finishes his first painting and shows it to Magali, she slaps him for trying to kiss her. Philippe, though, admires the work and promises to find a buyer. The pair continues enjoying life together, faster cars, shared joints, and even hiring escorts as a team. When Philippe's birthday arrives, he approaches it with little enthusiasm. Every year follows the same script. He pretends to be surprised by the party and spends the evening with relatives who only show up once a year to confirm he's still alive. He predicts the whole affair will be thoroughly dull. While guests listen to live classical music, Driss goes looking for Elisa and finds her in her room in tears. She's taken some of Yvonne's pills, though not enough to cause real harm. Bastien has ended things with her and called her a tart, so she begs Driss to confront him, which he agrees to do in exchange for something in return. Back at the party, Philippe successfully convinces a relative to purchase Driss's painting for 11,000 euros. Driss returns to chat with Yvonne, who tells him that Magali is in a relationship with someone called Fred, though it's going through a rough patch, which gives Driss a flicker of hope. As the evening winds down, Philippe plays Driss some of the most celebrated pieces in classical music, receiving only playful mockery in response. Once the live band wraps up, Driss connects his iPod and fills the room with Boogie Wonderland by Earth, Wind and Fire, then launches into a dance in the middle of the floor. He moves brilliantly and gradually pulls the entire room into dancing with him, much to Philippe's visible delight. Later, while putting Philippe to bed, Driss opens the most recent letter from Eleanor. She's included a photo, she's quite attractive, and suggests they finally meet in person the following week when she comes to Paris. When the day arrives, Driss and Yvonne spend an age helping Philippe try on outfit after outfit until they settle on the right one. Since Yvonne is the one taking Philippe to the date, Driss uses his free time to pay Bastien a visit and intimidates him into agreeing to apologize to Elisa and bring her croissants every single morning, and to fix his hair while he's at it. He also stops by his mother's workplace, though he only watches her from a distance without approaching. At the restaurant, Yvonne and Philippe wait for Eleanor, who is running very late. After an hour with no sign of her, Philippe gives up, calls Driss to come collect him, and leaves just as Eleanor is arriving through the front door. That same night, Philippe takes Driss up in his private plane and hands him the money from the sold painting, which overwhelms Driss with joy. They reach the countryside by morning, and Philippe decides he wants to go paragliding, pulling Driss into it as well. Driss is completely against the idea and panics at first, but ends up genuinely loving the experience. Back home, Adama is waiting for Driss, who immediately scolds him when he sees bruises on his face. Adama still won't explain what's going on, so Driss tells him to wait in his room, calls Mina to reassure her, then goes to help Philippe get settled for the night. Philippe, still wide awake, has Driss look at a painting with him and then asks about his family. Driss resists at first, but eventually opens up. It turns out Adama isn't technically his brother, and the people he calls his parents are really his aunt and uncle. They brought him over from Senegal when he was 8 because they couldn't have children of their own. His real name is Bakari Basari, but because there were other boys with that name, they started calling him Idris, which eventually became Driss. His aunt later became pregnant, and after his uncle's death, other men and more children entered the picture. Just as Driss had pushed Philippe to address Elisa's situation, Philippe turns it around. Adama needs guidance, and Driss can't provide it living here. So Philippe lets him go, insisting Driss prolongs with his family and can't spend his life looking after an old man. The next morning, after Bastien dutifully arrives with his daily croissant, hair notably tidied, Driss packs his bags and prepares to leave. Magali comes to say goodbye, and when Driss makes one final attempt at flirting, she introduces him to her significant other, Fred, short for Frederic. Magali isn't interested in men, and Driss immediately drops the pursuit. On his way out, he returns the baby monitor to Yvonne and calls her out for having lied about Magali just to wind him up. She hands him the escort folder he'd assembled, and he's disappointed to find the photo he had chosen for Philippe is tucked inside it. He tosses the folder in the trash, but slips the photo into his pocket. Outside, he finds yet another car blocking the entrance and tells the driver to move it, despite no longer working there. When Adama questions it, Driss says it's simply a matter of principle. A few hours later, the brothers go to pick up their mother from the station. While back at the house, Philippe sits down to his first meal with his new caretaker, who is stiff and tedious, and Philippe ends up walking away from the table without eating anything. Since Yvonne is out on a date with the gardener, no one is around to reprimand him for it. In the days that follow, Driss slips back into his old routines, spending time with friends, warning the people from the suspicious car to leave Adama alone.
At a job interview he's underqualified for, he manages to win the employer over by calling himself pragmatic and drawing on all the knowledge about art he picked up while working for Philippe. He lands a position as a driver. Meanwhile, Philippe continues to dislike his new caretaker and grows increasingly irritable. One night, he refuses help from anyone in the house during a bout of phantom pain, and Ivan quietly calls Driss. This brings us back to where the story began: the police chase, the fake emergency, the escort to the hospital. After that adventure, Driss drives Philippe to the coast, and the open sea gradually calms him down. Sometime later, Driss trims Philippe's overgrown beard and takes him out for lunch at a restaurant, but doesn't stay. Philippe is expecting someone else. Driss wishes him luck, hands back the egg, and slips away. Philippe grows anxious about being alone, until he sees who his companion is, Eleanor, radiant and completely unbothered by the wheelchair, happy simply to be with him at last.